Okay, I'm gonna hope that this works. Hi, hope you guys have been well. I have been myself. I think everything's, okay, perfect. Everything's working. I'm gonna be a bit quieter just because I'm not alone in the house this week. You could expect this to be more so like the normal volume. I was pretty loud because I was home by myself and I didn't need to, like, make sure I don't disturb anybody, but, yeah, here we are. As usual, I'll leave the background music that I use in the description. I'm gonna do that every time. I'll probably just use whatever I feel like using that week, and if people have recommendations or whatever, I can slot that into. So, here we are. We are in week 1 for TPL. To give a little bit of context, it's actually week 3 for us right now, but because I started a bit behind as far as recording goes, I'm gonna be a couple weeks behind, so yeah. So just to give a reminder of my draft here. This is the fan doc, by the way. I have Terapagos, Corviknight, Ogrepon, Fire, Iron Bundle, Enamorous Therian, Pheasantipity with a Terra, Fairy Flying in Water, Terrakion, Duraludon with Steel, Bug, and Psychic. Though during this match, it was Steel, Ghost, Electric, so keep that in mind. Because the Terra types aren't going to exactly match. Farigiraf and Ampharos. So, my week 1. Hi, what do you need? Okay, that cut's gonna be fairly obvious. Apologies, Mom just came in the room, but so my week 1. Where's my week 1? My week 1 is against Egg and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, this team feels like it was designed to, like, completely contradict mine. They have Ursulina, Bloodmoon, Sneasler, Screamtail, Indeedee. I think it's the male one. I'm not sure if they count them as both in this league. I'm not sure. Could be either or. Empoleon, Salamence, Colossal, Galarian, Weezing, Uxie, and Spiritomb. Now, the first thing that I've noticed about this team is the Bloodmoon and the Sneasler hits basically my entire team for super effective damage, or big damage at least. Sneasler with its poison fighting can hit my Enamorous for really hard damage, and that's a big defensive tool that I have. It can also hit Terapagos for super effective damage, and if it gets unburdened, it could outspeed and sweep my entire team if I'm not careful. So that's definitely the biggest threats to this team that I thought about the most going into this week 1. As well as the Empoleon, actually. Empoleon, without Freeze-Dry Iron Bundle, can completely wall anything I can do. It can wall my Terapagos, it can wall my Enamorous Therian and hit back for super effective damage. So those are the 2 biggest threats I'm worried about. The Blood Moon, I wasn't too worried about, but I know it hits pretty hard, and my team has a pretty major ground weakness, so I wanted to make sure that I could live some hits from that as well. Screamtail, I didn't think it was coming. It doesn't have a lot of use in this matchup, in my opinion. Salamence, I was a bit unsure. I thought for sure, like, Terra Fairy Uxie would come, just because, like, again, it's really good into my team. I didn't build the best team, so Spiritomb I wasn't too worried about. Galarian Weezing I was really worried about because, again, it's a poison type. Poison Fairy is pretty scary, and with Levitate it can just completely wall my team because I don't have a way to do psychic damage. And my steel type damage is Corviknight, so, you know, if you can deal with the Corviknight, then Weezing just kind of goes from there. But so I prepped with mostly the Blood Moon, the Sneasler, and the Empoleon in mind, but I was also wary that the Galarian Weezing would probably come, and if it did, it probably would be more of an offensive Galarian Weezing, excuse me. So, you know, here's what I did for Team 1. Or week 1, I should say. Turtle Speed to the Terapagos. Its spread is very odd. So I ran pure coverage this week, right? Because normal is Terra Starstorm isn't going to do a lot into this team, like in the long run. And I wasn't sure what exactly Egg was thinking about bringing, because there are a couple of pretty major threats, but the last couple of slots can be very flexible and can do a lot of things. So I know this is like a nightmare matchup, so I decided to run full coverage Terapagos with leftovers this week. Leftovers protects. I would hope that like I could, you know, have something KO'd, bring Terapagos in, get some chip off or some super effective damage off. Terra Shell would half the damage. I wouldn't take too much. I could protect and leftovers recovery. I could switch Terapagos out to have something else take the hit. And then, you know, rinse and repeat. Switch it back in, use protect, hopefully get a second Terra Shell, or a third even. That was the goal with Terapagos this week. I really want... Terra Shell is pretty important because that Sneasler is a really, really, really major threat, and that Blood Moon can also one-shot my Terapagos if I'm not careful, so... yeah, so I ran Earth Power, Dazzling Gleam, Ice Beam Protect. Earth Power hits the Sneasler for super effective damage. Dazzling Gleam hits the Spirit Tomb for super effective damage. Ice Beam really cripples that Blood Moon as well as the Salamence, which I was pretty worried about. Dazzling Gleam also is just good damage into his team overall. He doesn't have a lot of ways to resist fairy type damage, so I thought Dazzling Gleam would just be a good cover pick. And then Earth Power, Ice Beam Protects are for specific Pokemon, because Terapagos kind of has to be a check for a lot of Pokemon, so. I ran plus defense minus attack, and I didn't put any investment in my defense because I wanted just a little bit of special attack to be able to reliably two-shot a Sneasler. And I also wanted to make sure that I could live a Blood Moon without Terra Shell intact, so that's why the special defense is what it is. And I wanted my Terapagos to be able to outspeed, like a min speed, Blood Moon, as well as be able... Oh, that's the replay. You can see what I led there. I did not click the right tab. As well as this Colossal here, actually. I was a bit worried about the Colossal coming. It can do quite a bit into my team, especially if it goes Terra Water, so... I was a bit worried about this. I thought that this could be a high possibility of coming, but I thought Uxie was more likely. Of course, both could come, but I didn't expect him to bring both his Terra Captains. I only expected him to bring one of them, and I thought Colossal was the more likely of the two, because it does a bit more into this team. That's also the replay. My tabs aren't the most organized, so I apologize. So yeah. Terapagos is meant to just be a blanket check. It's meant to mostly deal with the Sneasler, because without Terapagos Terra Shell intact, I don't have a way to beat Sneasler reliably, so that's what I did. Next up, we have Ogerpon Hearthflame. To be honest, this felt like a must bring, mostly because, you know, if I get like a miss or doesn't do anything into like a flash... No, it gets Steam Engine. So, yeah, it wouldn't matter. Colossal gets Steam Engine, not Flash Fire, I don't think. Unless it gets Flash Fire. I'm not entirely sure on that one, actually. I'd have to look it up later, but... Sonic Tantrum was for, like, misses or immunities or something like that, because he does have a way to get around some of my things. I did run a Focus Energy set. I love Focus Energy. I wanted it to be able to kind of get that Focus Energy up and start blasting holes into Egg's team, because it is so kind of bulky, except for that Sneasler, which that Sneasler, I put enough defense into it so that Ogerpon will get two shots. So if I get, you know, like a crit, you know, stopping Tantrum on it, and it's not holding a Focus Sash, then, you know, I can just get that Sneasler out of there immediately, and my team will have a much, much easier time. Because, again, that Sneasler and that Blood Moon combination are very, 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 very scary for my draft. And I knew for a fact that they were both coming. There's no way that both of them weren't coming, because that duo is just so strong in my team, so. Gave it enough speed to outspeed a max speed Blood Moon, I believe was the calc I did on that. Stopping Tantrum is also good into Empoleon, which I'm worried about, but that's not the main answer. It's mostly here for the Sneasler, as well as Grass does good damage into most of this team. So, and Ivy Cudgel does good damage into everything else, so you know, that's why I decided to go with what I did. If Showdown will let me... Okay. Do that, so... Yep, that's Uzui, the Oakmont Hearthflame. Next we have Iron Bundle with Scarf. I want to outspeed everything this week. I didn't put a lot of speed into it, but I wanted to be able to outspeed Sneasler reliably, and the only way I could do that is with a Choice Scarf on Bundle this week. Freeze Dry is very, very scary into this team. Scarf Freeze Dry can put in a lot of work, I felt like. Flip Turn, in case I need a little bit more momentum. Hydro Pump is the only reliable water move it has, and then Ice Beam. It's very standard. Standard Choice Scarf set. The spread's a little weird because I wanted it to be able to take one hit if I had to in a pinch. So I gave it a bit of special bulk this week. So if it needed to come in on a Blood Moon, it had a better chance of surviving than if I didn't. So it has a little bit of HP, quite a bit of special bulk. I didn't put a ton of speed because I didn't need max speed Choice Scarf this week. I could have ran max speed Choice Specs, but it wasn't as consistent as Choice Scarf. So there's the second one, I suppose, or the third one. Oh dang. Okay, I'm making good time. I don't want these to be like way too long, so I'm glad I'm making good time on this. Next we have Duraludon. Duraludon is pretty much kind of one of the only things that can switch into a Sneasler close combat and be okay. Oh, this is not the week that I ran that set. I ran a pretty funny set that you guys will see that next week, but I thought it was fun anyway. Flash Cannon, Roar, Body Press, Stealth Rock, dedicated lead. You already saw like in the replay, like obviously I led that. It's dedicated lead. Flash Cannon is just good consistent Steel type damage. Roar in case something wants to set up on me. Body Press is just good consistent damage as well. And then Stealth Rock so that I have a little bit of hazards, get a little bit of chip, because I'm going to need every bit of damage that I can in this matchup. It's very, very bad for me, so. Light Metal because the ability doesn't matter too much. And Terra Ghost to block a close combat from Sneasler. I don't think I actually end up using the Terra Ghost, actually, so. Next we have Fezandipity, Fezpez. I ran a Boots Technician, Source Agility, Gunk Shot with Terra Flying Acrobatics. Very odd set, but, again, I've noticed that people like to knock off Fezandipity quite a bit. So, spoilers, it doesn't happen in this match, so this set doesn't really get to take off like I wanted it to, but Gunk Shot is its best poison type option. Acrobatics obviously gets the Technician boost, I think. 60 power or less, yeah. So it gets a Technician boost. Terra Flying makes a stab. Agility, Source Dance. I wanted to run a double dance set this week because of the Screamtail in particular. If it came, I wanted to be able to outspeed and one-shot it with a Gunk Shot. So that's why I'm like max speed agility set. Just a little bit of attack. It gives me enough attack to be able to choose shot a Screamtail, I think. There was a specific reason why I went with 6 in this. When I wanted to be more physically bulky, because it can also take on Sneasler if I needed to. And a lot of speed. Wanted this thing to be fast and hit pretty hard. Spoiler alert, it does more tanking than anything, but that was the idea behind the Fezandipity. I thought a faster Fezandipity would also be nice because it can outspeed a bulkier Blood Moon and get some good damage down on it, at least with, if it's Terra Flying and my thing's knocked off, Technician, Acrobatics would do crazy damage. So, there's the Fezandipity. Last we have Corviknight. Corviknight, my goat. My king, my goat. Purely defensive this week. Roost Iron Defense, Body Press the Fog. I don't want him to get hazards up. Hazards are pretty bad for the team. It's wearing boots, so it doesn't take any hazard damage either. Very standard. There's not a lot to say. Yeah, it doesn't have Terra type on it. If you know what Valerion references to, brownie points, because yeah, it's pretty difficult reference to understand. But yep, all bulk this week. Yeah, this was the best like overall bulk set I could think of. So that's what I ran, and pressure to help stall out Blood Moon PP in a pinch, and to also help stall out Close Combat BP in a pinch, since those two moves don't have a lot of BP. So having only like 4 instead of 8 with CORVIKNIGHT on the field is really nice to have, I think. So yep, there's my team for week 1. Terrapagos, Overpowered Hearthflame, Iron Bundle, Duraludon, Fezandipity, and CORVIKNIGHT. It's the best. It was the best 6 I could bring in. Yeah, that's what I did. So there's the team for week 1. I have the replay right here. Obviously, you can see that I had accidentally done things. So, yeah, let's watch this thing, and I'll tell you thoughts I was thinking and things like that. So, here we go, guys. Okay, so I lead off with my Duraludon. It leads off with Salamence. Now, I'm going to be pausing and playing quite a bit. Now, the Salamence doesn't get the Intimidate off, so I know immediately that it's Moxie setup. I fear that it's going to try to set up on me, so you'll see that Egg switches into the Weezing here. Now, I could have predicted this and gone for the Flash Cannon, but instead I go for the Roar because I'm more worried about the Dragon Dance from the Salamence, because it can just set up on me and one-shot me, so I decided that I needed a Roar in case he does go for the Dragon Dance, and he doesn't. He switches, and now he goes into Spiritomb, and I decide, okay, I can get my Rocks up this turn, because even if he switches into something else, I can get my Rocks up. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp, which burns me. It does connect to no burns me, but again, this is a dedicated sack lead, so I'm not too worried about him getting the Will-O-Wisp off, and the moves that I do have are Body Press and Flash Cannon, so I'm not super worried about this burn here. Do get tripped by the burn. Does switch to Ursaluna here, who does take some chip from Stealth Rock, so I know immediately this is not Heavy Duty Boots. Blood Moon, so I'm thinking, okay, well, it's probably Life Orb or Assault Fist. Probably Life Orb. It could also be like a max speed thing, but I don't think so. And here I just use the Roar again. I get it out of there, and Empoleon's in the field. I know I can't touch this thing. It's besides like Body Press, so that's exactly what I go for here. And I'm faster. I learned that I'm faster, and that tells me this is a very bulky Empoleon, and the fact that he only took that much tells me he's pretty bulky. And Rocky Helmet's revealed, so okay, I'm like, okay, well this is bulky Rocky Helmet. Empoleon probably has like Stealth Rock, Roar, maybe it has like Aqua Jet and Flash Cannon or something like that. Instead he goes for the Ice Beam, which I didn't expect him to be running Ice Beam, but the more I thought about it, the more it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It could catch like my Ogerpon off guard or something like that. And I get hurt by my burn again. Again, dedicated sack lead, so I'm not super worried about my timer getting ticked down. It's just here to do some Roar, Stealth Rock chip, and some Body Press chip to some things, so because those little calcs do end up mattering. I Roar out. Sneasler gets put into here, and I'm like, okay. It reveals he's Balloon. So that double tells me, okay, well I need to get a little bit of chip on it at some point so that my Trap Ghost can come in, Earth Power, and one-shot it. He just does the close combat, takes me out. His stats do drop, and I get in CORVIKNIGHT here. The goal is to try. Yep, and he turns Sneasler out, which I expected. Goes back into Empoleon, which takes some Stealth Rock damage. And I decided to just set up here. I knew he was probably going to switch out, because he can't really touch my CORVIKNIGHT unless he was a banded set, which he revealed he was Air Balloon, so I knew he wasn't banded, so he probably wasn't going to stay in, and he doesn't. So I just set up the Air Defense. And I go for the Body Press. I expected it to KO, but he actually survives, so I'm like, okay, well, I was right in my first assessment that it was very, very, very bulky Empoleon, and it turns out to be very bulky Empoleon. So I end up getting a Rocky Helmet chip. He goes for the Ice Beam, which does a little bit, but not too much, because I am especially more bulky, and I decided to switch in the Iron Bundle here. Because I had a feeling he was going to switch out and try to absorb the Body Press. So I switch an Iron Bundle here, I figure it's a free switch, and he goes into Spirit Tomb, which takes a little Stealth Rock damage and reveals that it's leftovers. So I go for the Hydro Pump, I do about half, he gets the Toxic off and lands. And I'm okay with this because, for me, Iron Bundle isn't super valuable here, so. I get the crit, which ends up mattering, to, like, kill it. So I was shocked. So Iron Bundle takes the first KO, and it goes into the thing that's really holding my Corviknight back. So I'm like, okay, well now Corviknight is really, really strong here. So I'm like, okay, well thank you Iron Bundle, you did your job. I take some toxic damage. Galarian Weezing comes in, I am Scarf. So I go for the Hydro Pump, and I miss, because Hydro misses quite a bit. He goes for the Thunderbolt, does quite a bit, and I'm like, okay, well he revealed Thunderbolt, so he's probably a more offensive Weezing here. But then he reveals he's Black Sludge, and I'm a little bit confused. So I'm like, okay, well it's probably just coverage specifically for the Iron Bundle. I do get taken out by the Poison, which is fine. I bring Invincibility, and I decide to go for the Agility here, get my speed up. He goes for the Defog, so there's no more hazards. And I go for the Gunk Shot. I expected it to do more. Because I thought, well, maybe he's offensive Weezing. No, he was defensive. I was right in my first assessment. He goes for the Clear Smog, which does some chip and also resets my speed boost, so I'm like, okay. I decide to switch back in Corviknight, because he can't really do anything about the Corviknight switch. Sends out Empoleon. He goes for the Vacuum Worm to give some chip. I roost up back to full, because it's just free roost. Goes for Vacuum Worm again. And I just go for the Body Press. And I take the Rocky Helmet chip. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then he goes into Salamence, and I'm like, okay, well the Salamence is going to probably try to set up on me here. So I decide to go into Terapagos here. I figure it's probably just a free switch into Terapagos. He does go for the setup, which I expected. He actually then withdraws and sends out Weezing to take the Ice Beam. And I decide to go for the Protect to see what he goes for. Goes for the Thunderbolt, so I'm like, okay, he probably doesn't have Toxic. Because that's what I expected there. So I'm like, okay, he probably doesn't have Toxic. I switch in Fezandipity. You can easily take this Thunderbolt. And then I decide to go for the Acrobatics and does nothing, and I'm like, okay. And then he reveals he's Toxic Spikes. So now I'm even more lost, because I've revealed that I'm leftover, so he can Toxic me, but it's just through the Toxic Spikes. And as long as I'm, like, careful, I can, like, observe the Toxic Spikes. Oh, well, I forget about this. This is hindsight. I decided to just go for the Swords Dance here. He sets up another layer of spikes, which I think is fine. Then I go for the Acrobatics and do a good chunk. He goes for the Clear Smog, which I expect. My stats get reset. He gets leftovers. I do some Acrobatics chip again. He goes for the Thunderbolt. I think he was predicting Terra Flying there. But I go for it this turn, thinking it'll kill. It doesn't. He goes for the Thunderbolt. Does quite a bit to me, actually. And then I finish up the Galarian Weezing, so. And then he sends out Salamence. I'm feeling pretty good at this point. Like, obviously I'm not out of the woods yet. My Fezandipity has no health with no roost, so it probably can't do much. I need to try to get rid of the hazards with Corviknight if I can, as far as Toxic Spikes go, because I don't want my Terapagos to lose its Terra Shell until it absolutely has to. But Salamence does come in here. I'm Terra Flying. I know that I'm probably doomed here. So I decide to switch out into Terapagos anyway and take the Toxic. Goes for the Iron Head. I do use my shell here. Get a little bit of leftovers and get hurt by the poison. That's why blunder, actually. This is what should have cost me the game here. Spoilers, I win this game, but that's what should have cost me the game here, was not switching in Corviknight here. Because if I had switched in Corviknight, I could have gotten the Defog off. No Toxic on my Terapagos. So that was a big mistake. I used Dazzling Gleam, and he reveals he's Roselli Berry. I expected Yachi, so that's why I went for the Dazzling Gleam and not the Ice Beam, which would have one-shot. So that was also a pretty bad blunder on my part, but you know, he reveals he's Roselia Berry, and I'm surprised. I'm like, okay. I even say it in the chat here. I think I said something. I guess I didn't. He goes for the Iron Head, does a little bit of chip, and I'm like, well, I've already lost my shell at this point, so I might as well just hit the Ice Beam button, and now Mence is down. It's 2 against 4, but I'm far out of the woods. My Terror Shell's broken and I've been toxic. My Pheasant Dipty's only at 12%. My Ogerpon hasn't been in yet, but Corviknight can't do a lot here. Sneasler just does come out, reveals its Air Balloon. Gets greedy and goes for the Sword Stance. I get the Ice Beam, I get the crit, and then I get the freeze. This wins me the game. Just so you know. I didn't expect the crit or the freeze, but I knew he was going to just go for the free Sword Stance, so I decided to just go for a little bit of chip here. And because he's Balloon, I can't use Earth Power, right? And I get revealed. But I get the crit and the freeze, which ends up winning me the game. And the Balloon does pop. So I'm feeling pretty okay, but like the sword stance with Unburden is pretty terrifying, right? Like I can just kind of sweep through the rest of my team, except for CORVIKNIGHT, I guess. But I use my leftovers. I do get toxic. He stays frozen, which ends up being really, really bad, right? Because I can just easily click Earth Power and KO it, right? The leftovers, and then I take my last turn of toxic, which is okay. Goes for the Ursaluna, I go for the Pheasant Dipty, get some chip with acrobatics. He reveals he's Smackdown. And I'm like, okay. That's good to know. I should send an Ogerpon then, right? Right? No, of course not. I send in CORVIKNIGHT. Why did you send in CORVIKNIGHT here? It's because I don't want my Ogerpon to get toxic. So I just go for the Defog. I get rid of the spikes. Goes for the Smackdown, it does a little bit. I am Smackdown. I decide to just go for the Body Press for good chip. He goes for the Earth Power and KOs me. And then I'm like, okay, I can just clean up with Ogerpon now. I don't reveal anything else. I just go for the Horn Leech, and that was the game. Now, okay. Okay, I'm gonna close this actually, and I'm just gonna go back to the TPL. So, as far as, like, post-match analysis goes, I made quite a few mistakes. The biggest one was obviously bringing in that Terrapagos a bit too early, so it was, like, moving forward, I decided, okay, I need to play better with my Terrapagos, because my Terrapagos is in win condition, right? That Terra Shell ability is hard to manage, but if you manage it correctly, it'll win you games, and I obviously didn't manage it super well, and I should have lost that game, but the crit freeze did save my game there, so you know. Obviously GG's the Egg. He's a pretty good player. He has a really terrifying team for my draft in particular. Just luck was on my side for this one, so you know, what can you do? I don't know if my music was actually working the entire time or not, but you know. It has the sound on, I just don't know what happened there. So, yeah. If my music didn't work, it'll have to be fine, but, you know, that's them's the breaks, I suppose. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in a week or so when I go over my week 2 match. I need to go team build for, stab mods and also record something else, so, you know, I'll see you guys on the flip side. See you later.